Stephen Stanko was executed by the state of South Carolina. His death occurred on June 13th. He was the sixth inmate put to death in the state since executions resumed. This resumption began 9 months prior to Stanko's execution. Stanko was 57 years old at the time of his death. The execution was carried out using lethal injection. The procedure took place at the Broad River Correctional Institution. This facility houses the state's death chamber. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. The execution followed a lengthy series of failed legal appeals. Stanko's challenges to his convictions and sentences were ultimately unsuccessful. A final plea for clemency was denied by Governor Henry McMaster. The governor's decision cleared the final hurdle for the execution to proceed. Governor McMaster has maintained a consistent stance on clemency for death row inmates. He has never granted clemency to an individual facing execution during his tenure. This position aligns with that of his recent predecessors in the governor's office. The denial of clemency in capital cases has been a pattern. Stanko's presence on death row stemmed from 2 separate capital convictions. These convictions arose from crimes committed in 2005. The offenses occurred in 2 different counties within South Carolina. They took place in Horry County and Georgetown County. He was convicted of the murder of his girlfriend, Laura Ling. Miss Ling was 43 years old at the time of her death. He was also convicted of the rape of Ms. Ling's teenage daughter. The attack on the daughter occurred during the same incident. Later on the same day, Stanko committed another fatal crime. He was convicted of fatally shooting a friend, Henry Lee Turner. Mr. Turner was 74 years old. In addition to the murder of Mr. Turner, Stanko was convicted of theft. He stole funds from Mr. Turner's bank account. These 2 distinct sets of crimes resulted in 2 separate death sentences. The sentences reflected the gravity of the offenses in each case. The acts committed by Stanko were widely described as particularly brutal. The nature of the violence shocked the communities involved. He murdered his girlfriend just hours before he killed his friend. The timeline indicated a rapid succession of violent acts. Laura Ling's daughter survived the attack. She suffered a severe injury, her throat having been slashed. The daughter's survival proved crucial in the legal proceedings. She was able to testify against Stanko regarding the attack on her and her mother. Stanko received his first death sentence in 2006. This sentence was for the murder of Laura Ling. He received a second death sentence on November 19, 2009. This second sentence was for the murder of Henry Lee Turner. Following his convictions, Stanko pursued appeals. He attempted to challenge the legal basis for his sentences and the findings of guilt. The South Carolina Supreme Court reviewed his cases. The state's highest court considered the arguments presented in his appeals. The court upheld his death sentences in both appeals. The conviction for Ling's murder was upheld in 2007. The conviction for Turner's murder was upheld later in 2013. The Supreme Court found no grounds to overturn the lower court's decisions in either instance. Prior to these capital offenses in 2005, Stanko had a criminal record. He had previously served time in prison. In 1996, he was convicted of assault and kidnapping. He served approximately 8.5 years for these earlier crimes. Leading up to his execution date, Stanko's attorneys considered the available methods. South Carolina law allows inmates to choose between lethal injection and firing squad. Initially, his legal team explored the possibility of a firing squad execution. This was one of the options under state statute. Questions had recently arisen regarding the firing squad procedure in South Carolina. These questions followed the execution of Mikal Mahdi. Mikal Mahdi was executed by firing squad on April 11th. His execution preceded Stanko's by approximately 2 months. Mahdi's post-mortem examination raised concerns. The autopsy report indicated that the bullets largely missed the heart. Instead, the shots struck other vital organs. This finding prompted scrutiny of the method's effectiveness and humaneness. The results of Mahdi's autopsy suggested potential unnecessary suffering. This possibility became a point of concern for defense attorneys. Stanko's attorneys sought a delay in his execution date. The purpose of the requested delay was to investigate the firing squad procedure further. They aimed to understand the protocol and its outcomes more thoroughly. The Mahdi autopsy findings fueled this request for investigation. The court considered the request for a delay. However, the motion was ultimately denied. The court's decision to deny the delay was issued on May 28. This ruling kept Stanko's execution date on schedule. Despite the earlier consideration of the firing squad and the concerns raised, Stanko made a final choice. He ultimately chose lethal injection as the method for his execution. Stephen Stanko's execution marked a continuation of South Carolina's recent pattern. The state has resumed carrying out capital punishment after a hiatus. Since resuming executions in September, the state has proceeded with several cases. Stanko was the 6th inmate executed during this period. The pace of executions has been notable. The state has been executing inmates at a rate of approximately 1 every 6 weeks. Currently, 25 inmates remain on South Carolina's death row. These individuals have exhausted or are continuing their appeals processes. Stanko was preceded by 5 other inmates executed since September. Each case involved different circumstances and legal histories. Freddie Owens was executed on September 20th. His execution was carried out by lethal injection. Richard Moore was executed approximately 6 weeks before Marion Bowman Jr. Moore's execution also utilized lethal injection. Marion Bowman Jr. was executed on January 31st. He was put to death by lethal injection. Brad Sigmund was executed on March 7th. Sigmund's execution was carried out by firing squad. Mikhail Mahdi was executed on April 11th. As noted, Mahdi was also executed by firing squad, and his case raised questions about the method. Stanko's execution adds another data point to the state's recent history of capital punishment. It underscores the ongoing implementation of the death penalty in South Carolina.